Mic check. Looks like we got volume. Welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Let me get a couple things set up and we will go live. Just getting back home about 10 minutes ago. We attempted to do a little trading on vacation. It was a little stress free. And we got a couple good entries on some tickers, especially AI, and a new one today was Plug. Then we played around with the Fiverr, FVRR, and ENPH, all names that we've talked about over the live stream the last couple weeks, as I've been watching them very closely. Before we go into any live trading, any stock market analysis, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor, just giving you guys some entertainment and sharing my opinion. So let's go into it. First ticker, we have AI right here. Now, our original entry that we got with this was on a Wednesday. Took a 34 break. My first entry I think was a 34.21 and 34.04, and we trimmed it a few times. Never hit the reload. My best print today was a 38.12, and now I'm thinking about playing this trend line right here. Got a couple points of contact. Third point of contact was the last candle of yesterday's trading day, and gaps up, never fills the gap, never comes back in. And we are trying to hold support at this previous high, just marking the body candles around 36.60. So can 36.50s hold? And that's kind of right into this trend line. So thinking about giving you guys some entertainment with this trade right here, and see if we can get any price action to the upside. If I do decide to take this trade, we are going to be respecting 37s, which is these wick lows. Not necessarily the wick lows. Wick lows come into 36.80s. But up to that 37 flat, I'm going to expect some sort of resistance in the middle of this red candle move. So if we do try that, we are going to be respecting some levels to the upside. But in at 34s, I can't complain with the price up at 36 halves. So we might just watch that a little bit. A new one today was Plug. And not the greatest first entry. I think we took a 22 on the first entry. And we got a 10-10. Basically, it gaps up, wicks into the gap, and gives you a nice move. I got a channel drawn in. I think the daily chart gives you a better picture on this one. As you can see, holding that positive strength, nice volume increase yesterday, gets the gap up. The buyers are there off the level, and the 10 flat holds. So I'm looking for a further price action move to the upside with this. And if this is some sort of retracement, right now we're fighting to get through that half. So if we can get some price movement to the upside, I'm going to be respecting 1050s and 1075s all the ways up to 11s. It'd be nice to sit here and say, oh yeah, this is the trend line that we hammered right here. And I would say you probably do have some sort of ascending channel like that. That's how I'd mark my chart. So if this wants to come back in, I think this 950 level is going to be something of interest. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at this previous high before we go and test the top end of the channel, I think this could hold as pretty good support, and you're in the middle of this green move. So just marking that previous top right there, you could go the wick top, which is that 10 hold. But if we do want to come back in, just marking these wick tops right here is that 950 level that we're interested in. But if it doesn't want to come back in, that's why we have the entry right now. We do have a print at 10. As soon as I sat down, from the drive back home, I just came and punched out a little bit market right around this 28, 29 level. I'm not even sure what exactly the print came in at. H&H, nice to have you in the chat here that cause problems. Kramer, what's going on? Yeah, I know. You guys have all been putting the work in. I've been out having a good time. It's good to be able to come back and get back to the live stream. I'm doing good. The title states pretty much everything I've done over the week. I was able to get a nice AI break, and that's kind of what I've been watching. I'm seeing if this trend line is going to hold, but we took a 34 break off this. My first entry was a little bit higher. I wasn't sure, and we were on the tape off of this 38 or this 33.80. Just never came back in. and respected the levels all the way to the upside, held it into the close. We had one print, I think it was in the middle of this candle. We were actually on the ask going into the open. I seen it gapped up, filled the gap, and I think we got one print in here, nothing here. I was out on the lake, and it kind of just traded sideways, held to the uptrend here, set to close. Didn't want to try it at the end of the day, and I don't even think I was watching it. But then we got the gap up continuation. My best print today is a 38.12, and now we're thinking if we want to reload this, it's coming in at the previous highs from yesterday, and sort of starting to kind of wick into this trend line. If it wants to give that up, we have some levels. I just marked these previous tops right here and then the gap fill. So if I try it right here, I'm probably going to try it near 36 as it keeps coming in. Traded RNLX today, 360 bank on it. RNLX, let's go take a look at that. RNLX. So yeah, red engulfing candle right off the rip would tell me that, okay, are we going to have some sort of descending channel starting to build right here? And it gives you a nice green move, and now it's just trading sideways. So right now, I would actually be, you're holding strength. Let's go take a look at what the daily chart looks like here. And your gap up just you get a wick into these highs right here. This actually isn't half bad look that it drops down to and holds support right here. The question is, does it need to kind of trade back in slowly and then build this U shape? The way that it wicked into this, you can see the buyers are in a way, they're there. Your true breakout price is going to be, I'm looking at this as some sort of neckline. So if this is some sort of uptrend, probably not perfectly set, is it going to be some sort of channel where this is going to be a neckline break and you get this exhaustive move up to these tops or even these lows over here. So just like that, this is how I'd mark my chart. If you need more, if the price action came in here, obviously there's more stuff you can mark in here, but for further extensions, if this is some sort of retracement play, which is what I would be worried of, is you can see we're wicking up to that 702. So I always get a little cautious around this level. And you can see the sellers are there, the buyers are there. So it's going to be a battle that's going to take place. And pretty far moved from my EMAs. You do have a nice positive break right here. And what I mean by that is you see how you fight. You reject positive, you reject positive, reject positive, reject positive, and now you just get the true gap up. And why it's a positive break is because you're taking out some of these levels. So does it need more time? I'll add it to the watch list just because it shows me that it's got these buyers there. But yeah, not a half bad look. Pulls into some levels. If you were playing these tops right here and just said, hey, had an order off of 250, you probably wouldn't have got triggered, but it could have been worth it there. I would say your breakout on the day is if it can reclaim 3. If it reclaims 3, it looks pretty good for the day. Oh boy, we got a lot in the chat here. I'm sure you guys got a lot to catch up with. What do we got? I got RXT at 195 still holding. Let's go take a look at RXT. 195. Hey, that's a beautiful entry right there. Nice trend line. I don't know if you were buying this for the trend line. Looks like yeah, that was a really nice entry that you had right there. I'm guessing you got it yesterday as it's holding this trend line. That's a really nice holding trend line right there. Always important to know where's your positive break. Use your positive break when you're kind of taking out this neckline right here. So I'd say right there, and you kind of rest on top of it. Couple green engulfing candles. All you do, you wick into the next level. Nice green candle for another high. And what I like about this green candle, now that I'm looking at this, Kramer, is you see this volume. This volume, anytime that you're getting these, so this, if you're looking at this as a pull, when you take out those highs, you see that nice volume increase right there. Okay, you draw back, you hold support, now you take out the highs again. You see how this volume, these two candles exceed this volume over here? That's a good sign of continuation. What do? We fall back, we retest the previous highs. Now we haven't taken out the highs yet, but now that we've taken out the highs, you see this volume also exceeding this volume in right there. So a nice look of continuation right there. And I would say you probably have some sort of channel, and it could be breaking through that channel depending on how you set it. But pretty nice look right there. That's a nice continuation play. I like it. I'll add that. I'll add both of those to the watch list and keep up to date with those. But other than AI, yeah, it wasn't the most exciting. I am probably going to go take a piece off of plug right now just because we are coming into this sort of resistance, and I'm just going to take a piece off right into this high from early in the day. And why not ring the register a little bit? So we'll cut off. We already got 20% off. Let's take another 10% off and see if we can hold this into the close, as I think it can give me a nice extension over the weekend, but I don't want to hold too much into it. Holding that positive, nice volume increase, doesn't need to pull back into the trend line is all I'm worried about kind of though. FVRR, we played around with this 26 level a little bit, looks like it wicked. Strength is just not there, so I'm kind of playing this early entries. And the reason why I like it, I just kind of like the financials on this company, but I do think it has some support built in over here. If it can just hold these support levels, I'm going to be all right holding it. High margin, they're free cash flow positive. Just if you're looking at a competitor, I believe Uphold is a competitor. Now that's not a reason to go and buy it because a competitor is outperforming it. But when you compare the two, I mean, they're not even close to profitability. They have a lot more share dilution. They have a lot more debt. They do have more growth, but I believe their total debt is around 1.4 billion to a cash balance of 280 million. And Fiverr, they're cash flow positive. On net profit wise, they're not positive. Their growth isn't as much, but debt wise, I think they only have 420 million in debt with 450 million in cash balance. Not as much share dilution. It does have a little bit, but if this can break through this descending channel, I think this could be a wave pattern that is brewing. It might just need one more leg down. So I'm going to be holding it against me if it does that, which is not what I want it to do. But I'm going to take advantage of this in the low 20s if it wants to give me an exhaustive move down here. I think you do have some nice support built in down here. Does it need to go all the ways to the lows? You know, it might have to. But looking back over at plug, catching a little bit of resistance here at these 30s. I think it does have a chance at the end of the day to maybe push for a high. But do just want to respect the lows. I can see there's probably some sort of trend line right here that's trying to hold. If that does crack, you know, bottom end of my channel is down here at 950. So that's what we're looking at right there. Let me go take a look at the chat. I wanted to get into Carvana. Yeah, Carvana I seen the other day. I think it caught a nice bid. Looking at it right now, it does have nice green volume, getting close to that positive break. So I would just put an alert right there, call it a 2650 break. If it can do that, is there some sort of uptrend that we can mark right here? It looks like it does have one. So it might need to just trade sideways. You can see the kind of flat top that it's building right here. So a couple breakout levels, but I also do have a channel drawn. I don't know what my chart looks like. It looks like we do have a channel drawn, and we're kind of fighting at the top end of this channel. So that would be the one concern, is does it have the strength to kind of push up? And like any trade that I'm looking to take, I want to understand where my positive break is at. And this is a clean positive break right here. You get the gap up. Tough to tell if this is actually a positive break, but when it takes out this wick high right there, this is kind of looked at as like a neckline. And you can see the initial gap up, if we mark that, that is what's holding as support. And now we get the leg up, kind of bull flag consolidation. When it goes south, I'm going to be looking for this gap fill down at 1577. So is the move over? Is the move not over? I would say I wouldn't bet against strength. Your strength sitting up at 130, holding some levels. You can see the buyers are there. A couple nice green candles came in. This is candle number 2. Candle number 3 is going to be a lot of focus. If it continues wicking into this 25 level, does it start to curl up, and does it give you that move into the 30s? So I'd be looking at this as like more of a short-term play, and I would see if I can get an entry. The closer to 25 you can get, uh, your outs. Respect the levels on the way up, but I would definitely respect this channel if it wants to give you that move into the 30s. You're out. I would probably just give it underneath 24.50, give or take. In a few weeks, yeah, if you get a break through this channel right here, there is definitely some legitimate uh, room to run up to this 55. I would say flat top gaps. I do like playing around with flat top gaps, but that's up at 42s. Yeah, I mean, it could easily run up to that. But does it need to pull back in before it makes that run is my question. But, strong name. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it up there. Um, yeah, I agree. A break over 26.50, that is going to be a pretty bullish move. And if it is a bull flag continuation, we do have a nice sideways consolidation right here. And just looking at these two green candles, holding in the middle of that, a couple wicks into 25, could go a long way. Another trade I was looking at was XPEV. I thought this was a legitimate flat top that it had, and I seen it gapped up over it today, and I would have been all over 12. If this pulled back, I don't even know what the 15-minute looks like. I know it caught a bid. If this candle right here would have been pulling back into like 12, I probably would have started at 12.25, give or take. Not just because these EMAs are here, but the closer it got to this sort of flat top break, anytime I get that nice gap up over that, the closer you can get to that 12, I would have been all over that. But not really giving me the option yet. I'm going to give it a couple days. Maybe it trades back in next week and I can take advantage of that. But looking over at another notable play, this one I seen was trending on Yahoo, and I seen that it had that big gap up, and I seen right here is right when we loaded the boat onto the lake, and I seen it was filling that gap, and I was like, do I just want to buy some and put a stop in underneath 60, give it like 10 cents? And it held this level right here, and it has been on a tear since. So this was a perfect example of, and we look over at the daily chart here, this gives it a pretty good look. You gap up, it tries to break over top of this level, it falls right back into the gap, and you can see this gap was a flat top. If you look at this where it's resisting, wick, 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 now you gap up and hold that gap right there. It was a really nice move. I was a little upset when I seen it yesterday, up at getting close to 2, but now today over 2. I was like, man, I can't believe I didn't pull the trigger on that gap. It was I was all over it. I was all over it, and it was a nice fresh positive break too. So you get this nice green move sideways, sort of this descending channel right here, give or take, not perfect, but then a couple green candles testing that flat top, and you can see the candles getting smaller, and then it puts a close right at that flat top. I mean, the signs were there for a gap up, fill the gap, and go. But never pulled the trigger on it. Maybe if it was back home, I might have got it. But uh, the last one that leaves is end phase. End phase, I do think this channel is worth keeping on watch. And if I go into some more technicals, this is a compounder, at quarter after quarter compounding revenue, profit, and margins are also increasing with this, and the margins are already solid. But on the year, I mean, this is December, we're up at 340s. Still put in pretty good quarters. I think their growth is just slowing down, but they're still compounding. But this trend line has been pretty legit. If this channel is legit, and we're talking about it down here at 160, top end of the channel, who knows? Maybe we reclaim 300 6 months from now. I mean, Eh, this channel holding is very enticing, but if it gives up, I would say red engulfing down to these low hundreds is very possible. So a nice trend line hold. We did average in around that 160, same area that we averaged in over here around this 160. As we were getting close to that positive, you can see it's rejecting that positive break. Doesn't need to reject it one more time. I will say a big part of this candle holding green is we did fill this gap. If we pull back in, this is I'm going to be all over. I'm going to have an order right in front of it and an order right on it. And my outs are probably going to be the wick lows. Either 154 or I'll give it the low over here at 151 and start back up again at this 140 gap right here. So that's my plan, is kind of give it this trend line, and if it gives up that trend line, we're going to start averaging back into this play back at the 140s. For starters, if we get this neckline break, which it rejected these lows, that's what it was rejecting. So I wasn't really looking for it to be a buyer right here unless it got over that. But the 220 gap is what I'm definitely gonna have an out for. So just looking at the 220 gap, looking at a 30% move. That is the type of move that I'm looking for. So just looking for that trend line to hold. Other than that, I'm sure I could keep going on and on. I know one of the plays I was looking for was this ACHR, and I was just looking for this trend line. I told myself on the live stream on Monday that I'm not really looking. This trend line's probably drawn in incorrectly, is what I said on the live stream. But it was testing these previous highs, and if I just played that trend line, that was one that I was watching. Holding positive strength. Not the craziest. Another one that I was a little disappointed not to get an entry on was this Warner Bros. Still kind of holding the range. I'm trying to see if this channel is legit. But I was looking at this as a third point of contact, and what I liked about it is if you take this sort of retracement play, how this 702 retracement held and then rejected the downtrend again. So if it kind of holds in this wedge, I'm thinking this gap is not out of the question up here at 17. You can see the flat top gap. Not out of the question, so I am going to be keeping this play on watch, but I know those streaming plays have been taking a hit. By the way, it looked like AMC wants to break. Maybe we'll see 6 this week. I have not kept an eye on AMC, but Kramer, you know what I'm going to say. If it's still trading in that channel, which it is, then I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it. I will gladly, if it gives me a 6 break up here, I will gladly trade it at a higher price. My thesis isn't going to change. The market has been pretty strong, and it is holding this sort of trend line, but trend lines are, I would say, support. I wouldn't consider this a trend line, but it did fill this gap. So this gap was marked, almost filled it, now it's holding above that. So if it can hold 4s, I would say maybe there is a chance. Let's just clear everything, get a nice fresh start. First thing I'll tell you is weak name, you're sitting at negative 105. So I think it's got some kinks that needs to work out. But I will say this wick was a good first step. And why I say that is because it gaps down. You could look at this as a flat bottom break. So if this is the support you're looking to hold, you gap down below it, that's a flat bottom break in my eyes. And we look further to the left, that is the gap up. So the flat bottom break, anybody that's looking to go short right here is saying, hey, I can short this down the 505 or 405 gap. Well, they got that. Well, now to the upside, let's clear everything again. You can see we wick directly into that gap down. Now if we just hold sideways, this is actually going to eventually be some sort of break. So we're looking for a 450 break, but I would like to see it come down and retest hold 4 and then give me that break. So I do think that there is potential. Another part that I do like this increased volume right here. But strength just isn't quite there yet. So I'm going to take some time and just let it breathe. I want it to work out some levels, and if I need to be patient for that break, I do know that AMC can run. I'm not denying that AMC can run, but the bigger picture is this channel. As long as it's trading in this channel, I know I'm not missing anything crazy unless it gives me a massive gap up to like 7 or something like that. If it gapped up to there and was holding this trend line support like 6 or 650, then maybe you can give a curl, and then you're looking at a breakout over top of these wicks, which is 9. So that's why buying it at 6, just because you're buying it higher doesn't mean that you can't sell it higher either. So that's what I'd say about AMC. Oh, look who joined us, Mr. Drift. How we doing? I knew Drift would tune in. Uh, yeah, I'm sure Drift was wondering where I was all week. I didn't have any announcement for vacation. Hal, or H&H, knew I was on vacation this week. Went, rented out a cabin, did a lot of fishing. Relieved some stress. Oh yeah, I feel good. It feels really good to be back, but it was a really fun week and I enjoyed it quite a bit. At Drift, RNLX waking back up. Let's go take a look at RNLX. And we're sitting right around this 3. This is going to be one. I do like this massive volume increase, gapping over a level and holding levels. That is what I do like to see. And you can see this nice curl holding the level. I'd say a break at 3 could eventually mean a day high break. So very interesting look. The only thing that would concern me is the decreasing volume. You can see right here, as you can, the day trade sideways. When does this volume increase? And I think that volume will come in at a break at 3 right here. So we can keep this one on watch, and we can look back at that AI trade, which we should do because I was looking to get a reload off this, and this is kind of what I was talking about. I was looking for a trend line hold, hit a reload, and see if this channel can continue. And a big part, one of my big trims today was, hey, when I was taking this 34 break, I was saying, hey, we can potentially get up to this gap. And you can see we got the gap fill this morning. We got prints even higher, and my best print that I got was over those 38s. Reload back in at this 34 or 36 half. Retesting these highs wouldn't have been half bad, but one thing I did say is, if I take the entry right here, I'm respecting these wicks. I'm respecting the body candles, which is a 37 flat. And if it wants to give me another move up to the top end of the channel, I'm all for it. Now, now that I didn't take the trade, I'm still holding a piece of it because there's no need to sell the entry you got down here at 34s. But a nice channel, and it's showing some good action for right now. For right now, it is. H&H, RNLX will be my next victim. Will be my victim for the next couple days. Even swing if the shelf registers don't get triggered. The one thing I'll say about that is size accordingly. And you know why I'm going to tell you that is because of the large gap up. Because if this goes south, anybody who's taking, let's say they're looking at this as some sort of break as support. If they take that short, they're looking to get it all the way down to 2. Which I know what you're going to say to that as well, is you're going to say, oh, I'm all for it because you're going to average in. Well, if there's not buyers at that gap, this is going to be another flat bottom break here at the give of 2. And before you know it, maybe down at 150. So I would just show a little bit of patience. I'm okay buying it at a higher price. I'm probably not going to at the tail end of a Friday, but this is going to be on watch for next week, and it's got a nice sideways action right here. If we just mark the highs, you know, could be a descending channel, something like that, maybe, where it gives up support, fakes out the longs, stops get triggered, and this ends up holding, and then that same 3 break is going to come into effect. Well, now you're not going to have this downtrend if it's over here. So I do like this setup. Now if it falls past 2, I'm out. Okay, yeah, I would expect that. But let's see what else we can find on here going into. We can look back at plug, see how that's doing, and we're still sitting there trying to hold these 30s. But we wicked as high as 33s. You know, like My bad. Headset is a little bit low battery, but that's fine. We should be able to close this. And you can see it's wicking this high. I'm probably going to hold it. Just because I think the daily chart is okay to hold it. I like the sign of gap up, fill the gap, and leave a green candle. And it's not the most amount of size, and we got a couple trims. We got about 30% of the position off. But I mean, it's nothing to really brag about. I mean, we took the trade today, and we're 20 pennies in the money from my best entry. So nothing really crazy, nothing to brag about by any means. Most notable over the course of the week was AI, and you can see, looking at the daily chart, on sort of why I decided to take the trade was just kind of playing this support level. As it was wicking into that, gave that nice flat top, and that flat top was built over the course of the day. If we go into that 15-minute chart, you can see that flat top that it was building right there. Now, if we look more closely at that day, you get the gap down. So we gap down, we fill the gap. So right then and there, I looked at it at the right time and said, hey, we filled that gap. And then I seen it putting this green candle in. And as soon as it took out this flat top, I said, no way I'm missing out on that. That type of look is my go-to setup. And I love taking that setup. And at the time, I didn't have it set like this. I had it more set like this. But I adjusted it when it said it closed right there, and now it's getting a nice action off that trend line as well. I did have this stem play on watch. Never tried it, but I did like the daily setup on it. Kind of the same thing, but I was looking for more so at this gap and how it got super close to that gap and just never triggered. And I'm sure there is some sort of breakout this 520 right there, give or take. Look over at a 15-minute. Yeah, it just never really gave you a true level. It gaps down, fills the gap, bull flag sort of setup, but it does have a trend line, give or take, in right there. So it could be a play next week. Yeah, other than that, oh geez, Hal's throwing a ton of tickers in here. We can start with. Oh, I got you with tickers, SQM. What's SQM mean? Or is that a ticker that you're pointing out? Oh man, you got all kinds of tickers coming in right here. Okay, let's start with number one, SQM. I can see I like that 15-minute setup. Could be some sort of breakout building around a 73.50 and could be a neckline at 75. Let's see what the daily looks like. It looks like we filled this gap. Gaps down through it, holds the level, and now it's actually positive strength. You got a positive break, but the part about the positive break I don't like is that we haven't taken out this wick high yet. So I do think that this is a reasonable setup if it can break over that flat top. Couple nice green candle moves, gaps up today, fills the gap, buyers are there. So the buyers off that gap, already 1.5% in the money. If you're looking at this for a swing trade, I would say this gap right here, 77.90, and respect, even though it wicks through it right there, wicks to it, I would say you can respect up to 80. So from current trade right here, 7%, 10%, that's reasonable. Not a bad setup. DOW. Nice positive break. Gaps up, wicks into the gap. It was able to fill this gap with no sort of rejection down. So normally I'd want to see a little bit of rejection, some buyers coming in, like mark this wick top right there. Your breakout probably a 54.50 right there. Any early entries, and you got a lot of gaps to the upside right here. You got 1, 2, 3. So from your breakout level, you even have another flat top right here. So all kinds of outs, or what I would say a catalyst for movement to the upside, which your last one's 6.5%. I wouldn't say you have much of a trend line. I would actually say you have more of a downtrend, potentially like that, where it could be a channel, but this could easily break that downtrend and then hold as support. So while it's inside of this channel, this I would look at as more of a shorter term swing trade, respect the levels. But if you were patient and you wanted to play it as a longer term swing trade, I'd watch and see if it can break over top of this channel first. Which if you break over top of that channel, reject these highs over here, and then you hold and just kind of trade sideways, maybe late July or August, this sort of neckline break that I marked as a breakout could be the trade that you take over here. Tough to say. If it does get rejected from that downtrend, I'd say $49 gap if you're buying it for a long-term play. But then if you try it there, your next gaps, there's your gaps for your longer term and maybe bottom end of the channel. Oh, all of these are the dividend plays. Yeah, I think I'll spend some time looking at them. If you're looking at them for dividend plays, I'd want to look more at the financials of them, just to make sure, just see what type of company that we're dealing with. But I can do that over the weekend. I can even make a stream for it. If you send me a list of them, then I have no problem doing that. But for the rest of today, this RNLX rejecting 3 for the time being. Is this channel going to play out? Can we see like a 250? So I know that 250 is a lot closer to this flat top. So give it a little bit of time and we meet in around this 250. That 250 could be legit. Looking back over at plug real quick. Yeah, just a nice slow churn. I think it's going to be one that we hold into the close. And this AI coming back into this trend line here as well. So that is going to be something that we keep on watch. I don't think we need to even talk about Delta. You guys remember when I was talking about this every single day over like a 2-week span down here in the low 30s, saying, hey, this is a nice channel build. And now we've blasted through the channel with no regards. Just adios. I don't see any way other to set that channel and actually breaking over top of these highs as well. The next thing I would say is I'm going to be respecting 50s. It doesn't really have much. It doesn't have much left. It does have this gap right here that I would say probably should be respected. But I mean, I don't really have much of the position left. I'm trying to hold it as long as I can. But getting pretty close to that gap, I'd say 48 is probably notable and probably worth trimming. But those airline plays, I think we hit those on the money. Hit those on the button. Let's see what else we can take a look at. Some of these bank plays, we did average into them a little bit. Nothing much. I really want to see a breakdown. But this BNS and BAC are the two main ones that we've been watching. And kind of similar chart setups. I think the dividend just came in. What's going to be really interesting is if we get over top of 30, because this 29.75 gap was filled, got a little bit higher, but then selling off in a nice trend line hold right here. And we were talking about this on the live stream last Friday and saying, hey, we're right here at this trend line and a gap fill, and we're putting in an indecision candle, and we get the gap up and continuation. Didn't have the strength to get up to this 29.20 gap, but I'm going to be watching for that next week. And I don't even know if I'm going to respect it. But if I did, I would be looking for reloads off of the gap around this 28 flat. You guys know we were talking about 28, holding, holding, holding. We gap up above 28. Didn't hold over here, but the trend line did. And now we gap through 28 again. Yeah, that 28 level has been pretty legit on. Yeah, Hal, make sure you just um send me a list of those tickers, or I can take a screenshot of it too. I'm sure you have more, but I'll take a screenshot of those just so I make sure I have them. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really have much for you. This TMC, we were a little upset on the TMC trade. We thought we were going to get down to this gap fill potentially, come down closer to that one. But it's got a nice sideways consolidation. I'd say if it wants to sort of continue trading sideways, it's got a nice flat top that's building here at a 175 break, which if you pull that a little bit further to the left, you can see it right there. Is this a confirmed higher low? Is this the start of some sort of channel like that, where, you know, if you take the breakout, you're going to be respecting two. But if you're lucky, you can get a break through that and maybe up to these previous lows, which is previous highs. This TMC has looked pretty strong, and one part that I like about it as well is you get the nice green move. You get a first candle with a pullback, and the second candle already starts turning green, and then this volume that came in on the continuation, it only put one small wick, and it didn't even quite get there to the bull flag. So does it need to pull back into this 120s and hold before it gives you a breakout? I don't know, but this is a pretty strong setup that it has, and I like that how the volume kind of correlates with the bull flag continuation. Another notable name is probably Rig, and we've talked about Rig quite a few times, and it's blasting through the channel. We were talking about this sort of building this uptrend. How about this flat top? It showed early signs of breaking it yesterday. We get the gap up. Doesn't even have the weakness to pull back into that gap. Just a straight shoot. Now breaking through 7. Clear strength. A lot of indecision in that channel. And I mean, the volume increase also shows you that this is a nice strong setup. How long is it going to be before we go test up these upper 7s, where that could even be a further breakout? You can see these 7s up here around this breakout level, just marking these lows. If it starts trading above that again, I mean, before you know it, you could see this trading up at 14, which from current price, that's double. So, I mean, pretty strong setup. The part that I don't like about it is how strong it's been, and they're not really profitable yet. Still projected 13 cents a loss. Decent revenue. I guess not the most amount of revenue growth, but I know their business has to do more so with contracts. So maybe they got some contracts that they're lining up. I don't know that much about them, but I do know that the chart setup is pretty strong. And with this name in particular, we are still holding the original freaking positive break we got back in October, around this 4. So I'm just holding it. Just if it pulls back into this level and I go flat on my trade, you got a lot of good support. This was a neckline break. It holds, sets a nice higher low on top of the previous highs right there, and gives you a leg up. So if it wants to come back in, then I'm going to be all over this down here around this 4 to 5 range. But if it doesn't pull back in, we still got a small piece. Nothing to really brag about. Not much size, as we've been holding it for quite some time. But I mean, other than that, I don't think I have anything that I'm going to take here at the end of the day. Uh, just kind of monitoring this plug, and I mean, we can look back at AI. but I think we're gonna regroup. Yeah, you can see it wicking into that level, and part of reason why it has this wick here is because you have this gap, and it was trading above that gap, and this is why when you're talking about gap fills, the close of that particular day is very big. It's very crucial. And why it's crucial is because all it takes is for it to close on it trades above it. But all it takes is for it to close below it. And anybody who took that short off that gap, which it's wicking into some levels as well, is going to be out of the money. So that is something that you got to be worried about. So does this need to pull back into low 30s? You know, maybe it does. But I do know that it is holding positive strength. A little bit of volume came in as we were getting closer to some of these levels, and that's kind of why we had it on radar, is because it was getting. We know the big players are around this even, so if you can get a good entry around there, it can pay out pretty good. But no, other than that, just wanted to get a live stream going. Let you guys know I'm still alive. And oh, you dropped them in the Discord? Okay, I'll make sure I go take a look at them, and we'll go from there. But in terms of the rest of the day, I don't really have anything crazy that I would be trying to take. I seen this AHI trade had a massive gap up with a share split, and just I would say you probably have some sort of descending channel building. The last notable one would probably be oil, as we're waiting for a 75 break, but continuing to hold support. Oil continuing to hold support, and it does have a downtrend, I would say, meeting up like that. So do we have a wedge pattern brewing up? If I was saying 75s before, but now that we've tested that downtrend and tested the lows again, that breakout price keeps getting lower and lower and lower. Where before we were talking about the breakout price up here at 82. It tried to get there, had to retrace down to this gap, hold support. We test up to 75, hold support, test up to 75, hold support. Now respecting the downtrend. So do we need to test support before we get a further breakout? Looking for 75. But other than that, I think that is going to call it for the live stream today. I still got some stuff I need to unpack and make sure everything's set. But that's what we're watching, and we will come back Monday. I'll probably have a live stream over the weekend, just kind of regroup and make sure I'm prepared for Monday. So expect a live stream over the weekend. If you guys want to tune in for that, feel free. If you guys want to replay it after it's done, you know, more power to you guys. But Hal, if you're still there, I will be in touch with you over the weekend, and we'll get into a call and look into some financials. You know I'm all for that. I love looking at financials. But other than that, I'm going to call it for the day, guys. I hope you guys have a good rest of your trading day, and we'll see you next week.